Welcome to The Sugar Show, an inspirational podcast for savvy body sugaring professionals and those who are curious and want to learn to sugar. Have you felt alone on this journey of learning to sugar? Did you feel like you didn't learn enough in your company's certification class and are hungry for more? Are you craving more ideas on how to grow your business? Or what the latest products are you can use on your clients along with sugaring? Here's your host and guide for all things sweet, Shannon, the Sugar Mama. She's an esthetician, author, speaker, mom, sugar biz owner, and most importantly, a sugar professional, just like you. She helps estheticians all over the world not only learn to sugar, but to build their skills and confidence so they can not only set themselves apart, but provide the most amazing experience for their clients. In each Sugar Show, you are going to get help and inspiration, not only from Shannon, but from her very favorite colleagues who are doing amazing things that you should know about. This is The Sugar Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Sugar Show. It is your Sugar Mama, Shannon, and I am here today with Daniela Warner. Hey, Daniela.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
This is going to be a good one because Daniela is a wizard with numbers, which I am not a wizard with numbers. She is the wizard with numbers. So I brought her on the show today because Daniela is the owner and founder of Auto Aesthetics, where she teaches business, sales, and marketing to estheticians so they can build thriving careers. Now, I brought her to help us build thriving sugaring careers and to really take that new skill set and hit it out of the park. Just really, we've talked about in our masterclass, we talk about retail mastery. So if you're in the SugarTribe, you get access to the masterclass. And I figured that today we would talk about numbers. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. You're speaking my love language.
Well, I'm glad it's your love language because mine is the creativity, speaking and that angle, and your love language is numbers. So let's get down to it. And really, I want to get them to know you. So what is your background? How do you become so amazing with spa numbers?
Well, so I'm an esthetician. I've been an esthetician for 13 years. Got licensed in Hawaii, where my family all is, in Maui. Spent most of my career there until I met my husband, who's active duty military, moved all over the place. And I was lucky enough, whenever I was working in a spa, I always did really well with retail. I always did really well with, kind of strategy. And so I would get promoted and ended up being the spa director at two different spas, one in Maui, one in Boston, and was able to grow those practices very quickly. And thankfully, the owners there had a lot of trust in me, had a lot of gave me a lot of freedom. So I was able to make a lot of mistakes. I was able to, test things out and try things out and see what works and what doesn't work. And it took me a little while to realize that my zone of genius was numbers and metrics and strategy and things like that. I thought everybody looked at those things, and I didn't realize that it wasn't just common knowledge that as an esthetician, you would know what your client retention rate is, that you would know what your retail to service percentage is, that you would know all of these things. I just thought everybody knew that, And so it was later that I was like, wow, okay, this is a thing. And I was doing really well as an esthetician. I was earning well above six figures when I was practicing. And so I started to see that I was doing something different than the average esthetician, which we all know makes about $30,000 a year here in the US. And really, I think what helped me stand apart was just the fact that I did focus so much on those numbers and metrics.
And really getting down to the basics and having those numbers really then work for your business. You didn't realize.
Yeah, because you're always leaving money on the table. right? But if you're not paying attention to the numbers in your business, then you have no idea where that money is.
Yeah.
And the thing is, so many estheticians out there, they don't even know how they're doing financially until October or November when they have to put their information together for their CPA or their bookkeeper.
Yep.
And this is actually something that numbers don't have to be scary. Numbers can be simple, numbers can be easy. They don't have to be stressful. And so many people identify as, I'm not a numbers person. I'm a creative. I just like skin. I don't But the thing is, like, it doesn't have to be hard. There are really simple things that you can do to understand the basics of the health of your business, to really let it grow. Find those areas where you are leaving money on the table, and kind of tighten those up with your systems.
And I think I love that. And I think that I know that it can be so freeing.
Oh,
I think
yes,
that we're
the
so
like
scared.
knowledge is power. That's what it is,
Yes.
like
Yeah. And we're so scared of our numbers when at the end of the day, you might be pleasantly surprised that your numbers are better than you thought, right? And you might really learn that your business is doing so well, but you've been head down, grinding away at it. You just haven't even realized, or
you know,
where you're, where you're like just little nuggets that you can grow. It's just so wonderful and freeing to know where you can build.
I think this kind of fear of numbers goes all the way back to just how we were raised, especially as women. I was
Mhm.
just having a conversation with my girlfriend Amber about this, and it's like, we're you're not supposed to talk about money.
Nope.
It is not polite. It is not
It's
so
not pretty.
it's not pretty. We don't
Yeah.
learn about personal finance in high
It's
school. We
not
don't learn
fluffy.
about No. So there's all these things that it's just either not acceptable to talk about, not, you don't talk about money, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about religion. Those are like the things that you don't talk about to keep everything civil.
Right.
And, whatever, you don't want to talk about politics and religion, that's great. But money is something that really does, especially as a business owner, it needs to be something that you can talk about. And money is a tool, right?
Mhm.
We make it emotional because as women, we look at it as security, we look at it as freedom. So that's why we get
Self-worth.
self-worth
Mhm.
100%.
Attached,
So
yeah.
we get so attached to how much money we're making or how much money we're bringing in or how much money our business is doing. And it's so scary that if we know that our business is doing 30,000 a year, then we're not worth it.
Yeah.
So when you can really just like say, okay, I can do this, I can look at this, it's like being afraid of the dark. It's like you have the lights out, like when you're a little kid and you're 100% certain there's a monster under your bed,
Yeah.
like 100% there's like some creepy ghost in your room or some scary thing. I have a 2.5-year-old, so um, but when you turn the light on, it's the radiator, it's the dog or whatever, you know what I mean? It's the same thing with it. It's like, oh, I can fix that. We'll just move this over here. It's the same thing when you really get to know your numbers in business. It's not scary. It's, oh, okay, this is what I need to do, or this is what I need to charge, or this is how much money I have to pay myself, which, please, ladies and gentlemen, if there's gentlemen out there, pay yourself.
Yeah.
Um, that's something that I want every single one of you to do. Um, like, this is not a hobby. This is something we're very passionate about. I think that that is the difference in our industry, is that so many women get into this as, I love helping other women look and feel their best.
Yeah.
I'm super passionate about this. So it's almost like a hobby,
Mhm.
but it's not. You've got to pay yourself. You've got to build your business to where you can support yourself and your family.
Mhm. Oh, I love this. And, the audience is made up of, I would say, half seasoned sugar professionals and half people who are just starting this sugar journey. So I believe the advice to seasoned sugar professionals is this is the year 2020 of systems.
Oh,
And
amen.
right, it is. It's the year of systems. And so I challenge those of you that are listening that are seasoned sugar professionals to really take a look at your numbers this year. And Daniela, talk a little bit about, if you're a seasoned pro, what few things you can do to kind of go into a fresh new year or even mid-year when you take a look at your numbers.
Well, why not the people starting out also?
Well, and what I was going to say for them, yes, they should be looking at their numbers, but for them, let's take a look at, for example, cost per service. They're bringing on this new sugar. That's I was going to segment it a little bit, like,
I see.
so like if you're just starting and you're not knowing what to charge, or you could also take a look at what you're charging currently. How does someone go about starting to even cost out their services? That was kind of part B. So,
Yeah, so I actually like to combine them because
okay.
I think that even if you're a seasoned professional, you can have a lot of what we'll call areas of opportunity with your pricing structure. And it's best if you can resolve these right in the beginning and
Mm-hmm.
be charging the correct price right from the beginning. But if you're not charging the correct price, and we'll do kind of like a price audit. But if you're not charging the right price, right in the new year, for me, is the best time of year to change your prices. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's as simple as sending out an email to your list of clients and customers, putting a post on Facebook, however you communicate, and say, thank you all so much for being clients this year. It's been an amazing year for us. Here's our updated menu of services and pricing for 2020.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to make it a big deal.
You don't have to say we're price increasing. It's just here's our
No,
updated menu. I like
no.
that.
Just here's our updated menu of services and pricing. Every year, they say the inflation rate's a little over 2%, right? So if you're not increasing by at least 2%, you are giving yourself a demotion every year,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you're not paying yourself, then you're just making your company less and less profitable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love to do price audits. There's a rule that I follow, which when you're in sugaring, so first of all, congratulations for having a niche, because that is one of the greatest things that you can do, is specializing in some sort of treatment. But when you're looking at sugaring, I imagine, and I am no sugaring expert, but I imagine the cost of treatment is similar to waxing more than it would be to like an actual facial, right? It's a pretty
Yes.
low cost of treatment.
Yes.
Okay. So the rule of thumb in order to have a profitable business is you never want your cost of treatment. And when I say cost of treatment, I'm talking about supplies. So for sugaring, you have your paste, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What other supplies do you need for sugaring? Gloves?
Just gloves and a little bit of pre and post. That's it.
So, what would you say your average cost of treatment would be to do like a Brazilian or an underarms? Because I imagine those are probably the two most popular
Yeah,
services.
anywhere from it depends on the products that you use, anywhere from $2 to $5.
Okay. And so I would say, like with something like that, the rule is to keep the cost of treatment no more than 10% of retail. So that's super easy
Mm-hmm.
with sugaring. When we get into, anti-aging facials, those can be anywhere between $10 to $25.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine if your cost of treatment is $25. In order to be profitable, you need to be charging a minimum of $250.
Mm-hmm.
So with sugaring, you have a lot more leeway. That gives you room for marketing dollars, that gives you room to pay yourself, gives you a lot of wiggle room.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're doing a price audit, something that I like to do is first have an understanding of what your no kidding expenses are. So what does it cost for you to run your business
Mm-hmm.
on a day-to-day basis? So or it's easiest to figure out for the month, right? So you have your rent, you have your laundry, you have your phone, whatever booking software you're using. Like look at all of your no kidding expenses that you need to run your business.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want you to divide that number by the amount of working days that you have open. That's going to give you your break even of like, no kidding, to keep the doors open, this is what we need to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Then I want you to put in the amount that you're going to pay yourself. And you don't have to start out with like, well, I want to pay myself $10,000 a month. Don't we all?
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, what do you need to pay your rent or your mortgage, to buy your food, your necessities to survive?
Mm-hmm.
What do you need for your household? Not like going to the movies or going out to eat or getting your nails done or any of that. What do you need to survive? And I want you to include that in that number as well. Then I want you to look at like, if I'm doing these services throughout the day, am I able to cover that and still have a profit margin? So let's say that your daily expense, like your break even is $300.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just pulling numbers out here.
Yep.
So that would mean that you would have to do, what's a normal price for a sugaring Brazilian? Is it like $75?
75 for the first time and like 50 to 60 for maintenance because it's less
Okay.
time. Yeah.
So 300 is probably, where's my phone? I'm going to do some little calculations here because I think that 300 is pretty high for the day. So let's say that a normal business has maybe $2,000 of expenses. Does that sound realistic? With rent, with utilities,
Yeah.
with all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 2,000 divided by 20. If you're open 5 days a week, that would be 4 weeks in a month, that would be 20 working days. So that's $100
Mm-hmm.
a day.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you're wanting to pay yourself, let's just put another $100 on there. So we'll say 200. So that means that you need to do 2.5 Brazilians a day for your break even point.
That's why I love sugar, because it's a great moneymaker.
And so think about, if that is paying your rent, utilities, bills, and then paying what you need to survive,
Mm-hmm.
then everything else on top of that is profit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's just kind of a roundabout way to understand what it is. Believe it or not, there are some people who price themselves so low that it's impossible for them to make a profit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like to do that exercise to begin with, in combination with understanding that your cost of treatment needs to stay within that 10% of your retail price.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that's a lot of information. It's kind of hard to do numbers when
Do you have a worksheet?
I don't, but we can create one. We can do some little post or something for your group that
Okay.
that can break it down, because it's simple math.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do that exercise, we can, you can figure out, all right, here's my daily goal. And everybody, when they're starting out in this business, they're like, I want $100,000 business. I want to be a 6-figure esthetician. That's like the goal, right? Well, if we break down, if you work 5 days a week, and if you take 2 weeks of vacation a year, then you need to do $400 a day to hit 100,000 in a year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really not that much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you need 4 Brazilians in
Mm-hmm.
a day. So, but if I were to say to you, can you do $400 in a day? You'd probably be like, yeah, I probably can do that. I may have to think about it. I may have to figure this out, but I bet you I could do $400 in a day.
Mm-hmm.
If I said, can you do $100,000 in a year? No, no, no,
It's all relative.
no way.
That's how we think about it.
Yeah, it's how you think about it.
Yeah.
So with numbers, it's as simple as just breaking down, what do I need to, what's my daily goal?
Mm-hmm.
And if my daily goal, we'll just make it 3 because it's at 2.5, right? So we'll just make it that 3. And then all you're focusing on every day when you come to work is, how am I going to get 3 people on my table?
Yep.
That's it. 3 people. There are 7 billion people on this earth.
There's a
Not all
whole
in
lot of
your
skin to
area.
sugar, people. There's a whole lot of skin to sugar. So then I imagine those folks that are not charging very much for their services really need to take a look at that same thing. Like you said, the seasoned pros. And then folks that are doing facials that kind of just, added sugar to their menu, really to take a look at what they are charging, how many people they're bringing in of those services, and just do a deep dive for 2020. And
Yeah, and I think the thing is too, where sugaring can be really helpful for someone that's doing facials as well. Like I mentioned before, some facials can, have a cost of treatment of $25. If it's not in your business model to charge $250 for a facial, you can offset the profit margins when you're doing something like sugaring that has that, higher profit margin,
Mhm.
so that you can kind of balance it out a little bit.
Absolutely.
So that's it, whether you're adding sugaring to your practice of other services, or if you're just straight up doing sugaring on its own, it does give you a lot of wiggle room for, your profit margin for those other services that maybe necessarily don't. I think where people get into the biggest trouble is when they start discounting. And I know that's something that you wanted to chat about, but I think it just really makes a lot of sense here, is like, if you are doing a facial that's a $25 cost of treatment and you're discounting that and you're not paying yourself, like, you have a lot more wiggle room with something like sugaring, even though I will say I'm very against discounting. And I think you are too. It, what happens is, so many women, so many estheticians don't understand the value of the service that they're providing. They think the only way that they can compete is price. And so they get into these price wars where people are just, you know, running things on Groupon for $0, and they price themselves out of the market.
Yeah.
And, I actually am a big fan of Groupon. Don't like stop listening to this podcast right now. But I love using Groupon as a client acquisition strategy.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a money-making strategy. There's a very specific way that we use Groupon to get people in the door. It's just the same way as like how we would do Facebook ads.
Mm-hmm.
You're just, instead of having the money up front to spend on Facebook ads, you're getting paid, $8 or $9 to get someone to come into your room. So it's
Just kind of flipped.
we just flipped it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it is not, you will not become rich by running all of your promos on Groupon. You will run yourself out of business.
Right.
If you do it without the right strategy.
I used it in the very beginning. I actually was Living Social. The Groupon folks were a little too pushy for me. So I did a Living Social in the very beginning for client acquisition. And it was one of the best things I ever did for my business, because I still have some of those clients today. And that was 9 years ago, 10 years ago, when I started in a new city. I didn't know anyone, and I started that. And I will say that with discounting, I think if you know your numbers, it's nice to know where your wiggle room is. But also, if you know your numbers, you realize that instead of discounting, for example, those of you that are doing anti-aging facials, we know that sugar is more gentle for those folks. And so if we're doing anti-age facials and we maybe add on a service, like instead of discounting the price, you add on maybe a lip sugar with a facial. Hey, get a facial, try a lip sugar, try a brow sugar. It introduces them to your new
Added
skincare.
value.
Added
Yeah.
value is so much smarter than the like slashing of prices in our industry, because that's what people are coming to you for, is the value, is the reward, is the feeling of beautiful skin, the
Something that
prices.
worked really well for one of my friends, who she actually specializes in waxing, but this could apply very easily to sugar. Um, get a Brazilian sugar
Mhm.
and get a complimentary underarm wax. So you're introducing them to a new area,
Mhm.
and that then they're like, oh wow, yeah, I don't have to shave my underarms. I don't
Mhm.
have to do, it's like they won't, sometimes people won't think about it until you offer, like, oh, you can sugar that, or oh, you can do, you know what I mean?
Right?
Like, so you just have to kind of introduce. So I spent most of my career practicing in medical, and so I'm a laser hair removal girl. So waxing, sugaring, like, that is not my pace.
Yeah.
Um, I am a terrible waxer. I've never learned how to sugar, but if you give me a laser, I will zap every hair off of your body. And I did that all the time. When someone would finish a laser hair removal treatment, we did mostly bikini and Brazilian. I would always say, hey, I've got a little extra time. Do you want me to do your underarms for you real quick? And they'd be like, yes, And so I would just do that. And then they'd come back for another series to get their underarms done because they just loved it.
Mhm.
So it's always, how can you add value to them? How can you help them to see this other area that
Introduce
they
them.
can do? Yeah, introduce them.
Yeah. And I think if you do less discounting, more introducing to other amazing things that you have to offer, you know, the better your business will actually do. Because they don't want cheap. You don't want to cheapen what you do. You want to introduce them to all of the wonderful other things you can do. I do that
100%.
with facials. When we sugar, I might just be sugaring a Brazilian, and even just taking a little bit of essential oil on my fingertips and just doing, like, we're all stressed, we're especially in the holidays, and to just take a little bit of essential oil on my fingertips and have them breathe it in and start to, maybe just do some acupressure points on the back of the head. And I talk to them, I say, and they go, oh God, that feels so good. I'm like, well, you should see my facials, because they feel even more amazing. Your skin will look good too. You do facials? Oh, I need one of those.
Yeah, that's a
This kind of
great,
thing.
great transition. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So at the end of the day, I think that my shop is having fun over there. We're inside of Sugar Mama's, actually, where I do sugaring all day long, and I have a staff that does sugar as well, and my clients love it. So it's fun when we do these podcasts. Sometimes the girls are giggling over there because that's
Oh,
what
you
sugar
know what?
is.
I do my podcast from my house, and I have so many episodes where my dog has been walking around in the background, or my baby starts crying, and
I know,
like,
right? You're
hey
like,
guys, keeping it real. This is what's going
I
on
know,
right
keeping it
now.
real. I'm in my shop and people are coming in and out every 15 to 30 minutes. So, I can vouch for, really sugaring saved me, because in the time of a recession, I knew what my numbers were and I just focused on those numbers and knew that I had to get, I mean, if you think about it, if you do, a Brazilian every half hour, you can make your $300 in 3 hours. Like, and just the rest is add on. And so knowing your numbers is so important, because 3 hours worth of work might feel like you haven't done enough, you know?
There's so much opportunity in this industry.
Yeah, for
There's
sure.
so much opportunity. I personally know estheticians, one esthetician in particular, her spot is 13 million a year. It's like, and I know way more than a handful. I know like 5 handfuls of spa owners that are 7-figure spa owners,
Yeah,
just killing it. And there's just so much out there if you're willing to do the work and say, this is what I want for myself.
yeah.
This is what I want to create, because you can have it. And it's crazy. Like, sometimes I'm kind of hesitant to bring up this story, but a guy that I know that works in academia and at a very good at MIT. So like
Okay.
a very good college.
Right.
And he makes, with his PhD, he makes about 80 grand a year working at MIT. So hundreds of thousands of dollars in schooling and education, all this stuff. And I made about double that with my aesthetics degree
Yep.
when I was practicing
It's
aesthetics.
possible.
And so it's like, there is so much that we can do in this industry. And I know there were lots of estheticians that made more than me,
Right.
And just like what is possible if we are willing to go out there and get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an incredible industry to be in.
It really is. And I love the advice that you give, which is to just first off know what you have, know, like really put it out, know your numbers, know what your costs are, know what your hairy, scary number is, know what you're shooting for, because then you can push yourself. But if you don't know your numbers, you don't know what you're pushing yourself.
Uncomfortable. That's the thing.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because you just keep pushing yourself at that number and it will come. I really truly believe that if you tell the universe, like, hey, this is my number, I need to make this each day, it will come. And I know that some of you that are listening to this show think, oh, it hasn't come yet. Well, have you sat down and really outlined it?
So that's the thing that I was going to say. Like, speaking to someone who is more of an analytical person, like for me, when I saw The Secret for this first time, I was like, what is this? This is so stupid.
Oh,
and
the universe idea. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I was like, you know what? There really is, like, yes, I don't believe that if you put a Ferrari on your vision board, then one will show up in your garage.
No.
But I do believe that if you have a focused goal, and whatever that goal is, if you're looking at that every day, if you're thinking about that every day, it's front of mind, you're going to take action on those things, and that will make that happen.
Yes.
So there is, however, if you want to like think of it as manifestation, if you want to think of it as, I like to look at it as a focused plan that, it's like, this is what I'm going for. This is how I'm keeping my energy and attention on this particular thing. And this is what I'm going to do to make that happen. There's 100% a place for, visualization and focusing on your goals. Like the power of the mind is incredible, but you still have to take action.
You have to work.
Yeah.
You have to go. You have to show up and work. And you have to know what you're working for.
Yes. You've got to know your numbers. You've got to put yourself out there, whether that's on social media, showing up at networking events.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be comfortable getting uncomfortable.
Yeah. Really know your numbers. So sugaring professionals, you're listening to this, and I will reiterate the fact that 2020 is the year of systems, and it is time for us to take charge of our businesses, take charge of our numbers, take these simple steps that Daniela has given. So re-listen to the podcast, because, at the end of the day, we need to be mindful and listen over and over again sometimes to have it click. But now is the time. Now is the time to educate yourself and be a strong esthetician and really, really understand what it is that you're working for. What number are you trying to hit? Put it out in the universe. Pray to God. Do whatever it is that, put out your lucky charms, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, you're going to work hard toward that goal. I didn't 3 times my aesthetic practice. I didn't do that by just, putting a vision board up. I really sat down and said, okay, this is what I need to make it. I have 2 small children that I need to feed. I have rent that I have to pay. This is what I need. And then this is what I'm going to do to hit it out of the park. Mm-hmm. So really focusing on your numbers, like Daniela is suggesting, will absolutely make 2020 the best year ever.
100%.
I love it. I'm inspired. I want to get my spreadsheets out, and I hate spreadsheets. I actually like my whiteboard. Sometimes I'll actually just whiteboard it out and take a picture, which is great too. If you're a doodler like I am.
Then just transfer it into a Google Doc. Just
Okay.
put it in a Google spreadsheet.
Okay, fine. I'll do that. I will commit to that. So, Miss Daniela, one of the other things I would like to share and is the resources that you provide, and not as trying to plug what you do, but I really have found so much value in being a part of your Facebook community. So, will you share a little bit about Spa Marketing Made Easy? And again, not to plug your program, but really to share with people what resources are out there for them.
Sure. So we have a podcast called Spa Marketing Made Easy, and then we have a Facebook group that kind of goes along with it. Totally free group. It's really about providing resources to elevate the industry. So we do a podcast every Monday. We release that. We do the video or audio, and we post that in the Facebook group as well. We have a esthetician business book club. So once a month, we have like a book that we're reading, and then we hop on Facebook Live to kind of chat about the book. But it's always some business related book. We do weekly marketing tips. So it's a very fun, engaged group, very focused on business and marketing in the spa world. We're not a group where um, we're not really talking about treatments or products as
Learning
much.
new skills.
Yeah, we're really just about the business building or marketing side of things in your spa business. So it's called Spa Marketing Made Easy. I would love for you guys to come and hang out. Totally free resource meant to help you build your business.
Watch what you wish for, because I'm going to hang out and I'm going to get involved in there. I love it. I love, I'm going to start reading your book. I'm going to be a part of your book club. I love that idea.
Yeah. So this month we're doing You're a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero.
Yes. I love
Such
that.
a good book. It's like my fourth time reading it.
Okay.
But so many of the estheticians in there have been posting like their breakthroughs and ahas as they've been reading the book. And once a month so we've got it in the events tab. We do a Facebook Live where we just kind of talk about it together, but it makes it fun. You can show up, have a glass of wine, like whatever you want to do as we're kind of talking about this book. But I find that when you have a community, like how many of you out there have bought all these books but just never read them, right?
Right.
So they're just like sitting there blank, and it like kind of makes you feel good that you bought it, but you never actually read it, let alone applied the information in there.
Yes.
So what we're doing, I'm such a book nerd. So we're going through and I'm just picking the books that have really helped me the most in my business. And we're going through and we're talking about them and we're reading them together. So it holds everyone accountable.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to get the SugarTribe to do kind of something in tandem so they can listen, because they'll listen to me on Sunday podcasts, but they can listen to you on Mondays, talk about the book. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I feel like we could talk for hours and just talk about this business and how we can just be better business babes and men and women. And so I appreciate you, and I'm really grateful for our friendship, and I'm grateful that you're spending time with my sugar world.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, and I really do hope that this helps provide value to your audience.
Oh, it always does. So for those of you that have been listening all the way to the end, and as well, it'll be in the show notes, you can check out Daniela Warner at addoaesthetics.com. You can also, as we said, sign up for her community and listen to her podcast, Spa Marketing Made Easy. If you are in our SugarTribe community, we have done a special class. Daniela's done a special class for us called Retail Mastery for Sugaring Professionals. You can see that inside the SugarTribe. And as usual, I look forward to seeing you in every class, and I hope that you have sweet success in 2020. Cheers.